So picture this, a late-night motorcycle ride through a totally desolate forest. A friend who was right there with you vanishes without a trace. This is the story of a night that spirals into an absolute nightmare, and it all starts with one single desperate question. I mean, can you imagine? You're in the middle of a dark, silent forest. Your friend, who was literally right beside you just moments ago, is gone. You call out his name, but the only thing that comes back is this eerie silence. And that's exactly where our story kicks off, with that one desperate question being shouted into the darkness.
Okay, so it was a full moon night. We've got three friends, our narrators, Suresh and Ajay, all crammed onto a single motorcycle, riding through the empty Telgaon forest. The moonlight is giving everything this ghostly glow, but they are the only souls on the road. They decide to make a quick stop, a decision that is about to completely unravel their world.
So the narrator and Suresh step over to one side of the road, and Ajay goes to the other. It's just for a second, but when they turn back around, Ajay's not there. They call his name, kind of joking at first, thinking he's hiding, but the silence that answers them is just heavy. You can feel it. It's laced with this sudden, cold dread. And then, out of nowhere, a scream just cuts through the night, coming from deep inside the woods. It's Ajay. "Brother, save me!" The voice is filled with pure, genuine terror. Another scream follows. You can hear him pleading, "Let me go! Let me go!" Right then, they know. This is no joke. Their friend is in serious, serious trouble. They just plunge into the forest, running toward his voice. And just a few meters in, their blood runs absolutely cold. There's fresh blood spattered on the leaves and drag marks cutting a path deeper into the darkness. And then, for just a fleeting, impossible moment, they see it. A figure in a black sari dragging Ajay away at this inhuman speed before just vanishing. The trail doesn't lead them to a person or to an animal. It leads them to a place that just shouldn't be there. A huge 2-story wooden mansion, completely falling apart and overgrown, just standing silently in the middle of the jungle. A final scream from Ajay echoes from inside, and then nothing. Just silence. So the second he sees the mansion, Suresh just freezes. He is totally convinced they're dealing with a Dayan, a witch. He saw how that thing dragged Ajay, and he's arguing no ordinary person could do that. The narrator, on the other hand, is trying to be logical, suggesting maybe it's a psycho killer. But here's the real argument. Suresh wants to run for his life, while the narrator is insisting, no way, we can't just abandon our friend. The narrator wins the argument. They grab some wooden sticks as makeshift weapons and manage to force the door open. A whole swarm of bats immediately flies out right at them, which you can imagine makes Suresh even more terrified. Inside, the air is just stale and thick with decay. I mean, everything is covered in this smothering layer of dust and cobwebs. It is crystal clear no one has lived here for a very, very long time. As they're creeping around the decaying ground floor, another horrifying scream from Ajay rips through the mansion. This time, it's clearly coming from the second floor. It's just a sound of pure agony, and then it's abruptly cut short, followed by this profound, deathly silence. They know they have to go upstairs, but what in the world could possibly be waiting for them up there? After a scream like that, the silence is almost worse. Where was Ajay? And what had just happened to him? The narrator steels himself and heads for the stairs. He can see blood actually trickling down from the second floor. And even though Suresh is begging him to turn back, he just can't leave his friend. He runs up the stairs, his heart just pounding in his chest, bracing himself for the absolute worst. What he finds is, it's beyond comprehension. Hanging upside down from the corridor ceiling is a body. It's Ajay. His feet are bound by a thick black rope. His arms are just swaying lifelessly. But the final, grotesque detail, the one that freezes the narrator right where he stands, is that his head is gone. And then they hear Ajay's voice again, coming from a dark room nearby. They rush in, and what they see just defies all logic. In the corner sits the woman in the black sari. Her back is to them, and she has no head. In her hands, she is holding Ajay's severed head, and it's from this head that Ajay's voice is speaking. "Friends, I'm here." The headless woman turns around. In this swift, gruesome motion, she places Ajay's head onto her own neck. It just settles into place. And then, In Ajay's voice, she smiles and points at them. "Bring me my head," she says, "or I will take yours." They just bolt. The narrator is running blindly, but then he realizes Suresh isn't with him. He turns back and sees the impossible. Suresh is walking stiffly, almost like a robot, back towards the mansion. The narrator looks up, and he sees the entity in the window, wearing Ajay's head, just smiling down. Before he can even scream, Suresh enters a room, picks up a knife, and in one swift motion, ends his own life.
So now the narrator is truly, terrifyingly alone, trapped by this spirit who's blocking the only exit. His only chance of survival is to do what she says. He has to find her real head. But to do that, he needs to know her story. And so she tells him this absolutely tragic story. Turns out, she and her husband had come to the mansion for a vacation. One day, while he was out fishing, 3 drunk campers basically tricked their way inside and attacked her. Her husband came back and fought them, but he was stabbed and killed. Then, in a drunken, violent rage, one of the attackers beheaded her with a camping knife. Her body was buried under a nearby tree, but her head was never with it. So, here's the crucial part. Her spirit is incomplete. It's trapped. To find peace, her skull has to be found and cremated alongside the rest of her remains. And this is now the narrator's impossible task. But the spirit's story, it offers very few clues. I mean, how could he possibly find a skull that was lost somewhere in this huge forest years ago? His life literally depends on solving this puzzle. So he asks her for one last detail. What did she hear right after she died? And this is where the narrator's quick thinking really comes in. The spirit remembers hearing the men talk about frying fish. He immediately connects this to the fact that her husband had only caught 1 single fish when he came back. Well, 1 fish isn't enough for 3 hungry guys. His deduction? They must have gone back to the pond to catch more. And while they were there, one of them probably just chucked her head into the water. So he goes to the pond behind the mansion. And to narrow the search area, he finds a coconut that's roughly the size and weight of a human head. He stands where the men likely stood and he throws it as hard as he can into the water. Then he dives into that radius and just starts searching the murky depths for hours on end. He's freezing, he's exhausted, and after what feels like an eternity, his hands finally close around something hard and round, buried deep in the mud. He pulls it free from the bottom of the pond. He's found it. He brings the skull, which is now just bare bone, back to the mansion. He follows the spirit's instructions, unearthing her skeleton from its shallow grave under the tree. He builds a pyre, places her bones and her long-lost skull together, and sets them on fire. As the flames rise, he sees her spirit ascend into the sky, finally free. Then he runs, and he never, ever looks back. The narrator survived an ordeal that claimed both of his friends. He was faced with an impossible choice: run and almost certainly die, or stay and confront a terrifying supernatural entity to solve the mystery of her murder. It really leaves us with a haunting question, right? Faced with that same horror, what would you have done?